under the water that, well, I thought maybe you might be interested in it also. And the reason this fellow is here, Mr. Tillman, is because there's going to be a festival here that is going to be a sort of a festival of movies and so forth about the things under the sea. And since that time, I've talked to a lot of people, and it's amazing how many people are really interested in the scuba diving and diving, you know, with snorkel, with the tanks on the back, and getting down there and taking pictures particularly, and spearing fish and all these exciting things that lure men and women to the sea. There are several publications. You know, it's a great hobby, and people spend a lot of money around the world to go to places where they can see things in their natural habitat, in their natural beauty, but the depth and the temperature and the clearness of the water are very important, as well as the things that are under the water, the coral design and the type of marine life and the type of fish and the type of, you know. And it has now been established that one of the greatest places in the whole world for this type of underwater beauty is right here in the Philippines. Can you imagine that? The whole world has been established that one of the greatest and most beautiful sights and places in the whole world is right here. That made me happy. I want you to meet Mr. Al Tillman, Tillman, and his wife. Actually, you didn't bring your wife tonight. I don't know why you didn't bring your wife.
I was afraid because of you.
Is that right?
Right, you were.
Well, it was a pleasure to meet her the other night. She's terrific. I can see how you and she have so much fun together. And I want you to meet Mr. Dick Bartlet over here. Dick, you're an old diving man, I understand, and have been diving for many years. Why did you get started in this thing? Because your father liked it, or what?
When I was about 14 years old, my father bought me an aqualung for my birthday. And at that time, there were very few people around that could teach other people to use this type of equipment. So we looked around for about a month, and we found this crazy guy down on Beach, California, that was going to teach people to dive. That was Professor Tillman.
And he's the one who taught you how to dive.
And he came up and started one of the first organized diving programs. That's how I started. I had a little training with the Navy.
And then I guess everybody knows old Joe Mendez there. Joe Mendez is he's a kind of a nut, you know. He parachutes, you know. He's one of these, what do you call those free fall? What do you call that again? Skydiver. And then he's a fellow who goes down into the sea and does scuba diving and all this. They call you professor. How did you get the professor part of it out?
Well, I've been a professor at California State College, Los Angeles for the past 15 years. And I'm in the field, a lot of people, well, it's rather a new field, which is recreation management. We're interested in playgrounds and parks and resorts and tourism.
Isn't there an organization? I went to the Bahamas last year, and I saw an organization headquarters there called something about diving.
Underwater Explorers Club.
Underwater Explorers Club,
Yes.
and they said that was the headquarters there. Have you ever heard of that?
Yes, my wife and I set that up, starting back in 1962.
Oh.
Before Grand Bahama Island was really developed, just native villages there.
Yeah.
And we operated the thing for several years, developing an international society of underwater explorers. And we had everything there, biology labs, local labs, people from all over the world came there. People like Lloyd Bridges from the Sea Hunt program.
Is that right? You know, that program was on here. I think it was on Channel 3 for many many years, and it was one of the great programs. Did you ever meet this fellow Bridges?
Yes, he's a good friend, and I used to be the technical advisor for CNAUI. I read all the scripts for 5 years.
Of the television program?
Yes, and told him when they were doing something wrong. So I met Bridges and his family, and they used to come down and dive with us in the club.
Is he a real diver, or were those make-believe shots?
Well, he did have a stunt man, but he is an excellent athlete, and he is a good diver. And in fact, his whole family are all very good athletes. And his son now has become even more of a celebrity than he is. He's one of the leading actors now in Hollywood, Will Bridges.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, you'll be hearing a lot more of him.
Was Sea Hunt shot in the studio in Hollywood, or was it shot in the Bahamas, or where?
It was really a combination. A great deal of what we call reaction shots, close-ups, were by necessity done on the sound stage. I don't like to take away from the mystery, but a lot of the underwater footage that was so beautiful was shot in Silver Springs, Florida, where the water is crystal clear.
Oh.
And then some of the really good footage was taken out of the South Pacific, where you see the sharks coming around the reef. They went out into the Pacific and worked for about 8 months trying to get shark footage. They tried all over. You know, they said, well, there's sharks out in the South Pacific all over. They went out and they dumped garbage and everything else trying to get sharks. It took them 8 months before they could get enough footage to use for the series.
I thought there were sharks every place. All you have to do is snap your finger and 16 sharks appear.
That's what they thought when they went out there. They spent 8 months in the process of getting enough footage.
What do you call, Al, a fellow who puts on a couple of, or one tank or 2 tanks and fins, and puts on a rubber suit and puts on a mask? What do you call that fellow once he has that on? You call him a
scuba diver.
That's a scuba diver?
Yes. And that's different from what we call a skin diver, or a snorkeler sometimes it's called. This is a snorkeler or a skin diver is someone who holds his breath and dives down, very much as you see the native divers doing. But a scuba diver is someone that's using, this is the initials, what makes up scuba, self-contained underwater breathing apparatus. And this refers to a piece of equipment. Yes.
The word scuba are the letters.
They're the letters.
Which mean?
Self-contained underwater breathing apparatus.
Oh, I see.
And this refers to anyone who does not have a connection to the surface, is carrying his own air supply with him and breathes from it. And this can take any form. It can take what we call an open circuit, where he breathes the air and then it's exhausted into the sea. Or it can be where he breathes the air and he rebreathes the air, bringing more oxygen in from another cylinder. So there's a number of different ways of doing it. It's becoming very advanced and very complicated.
Someone was telling me, as a matter of fact, since I met you the other night, I've been talking to a lot of people about this thing, and they say that this thing of scuba diving is dangerous, and yet it's safe. It's safe if somebody teaches you how to do it. You don't just put one of these fool things on your back and put the thing inside your mouth. Somebody must teach you, because they told me that you can even drown in 3 feet of water.
It certainly is true. And the thing is that it's like we try to compare it to, say, jumping into an automobile for the first time and racing down the freeway. That is a rather foolish thing. Someone may be able to do it. But the point is that you wouldn't want to start out that way driving. So if you learn how to use the equipment and make it a part of yourself.
But what is so dangerous about not knowing what to do with a scuba tank?
Well, I think maybe I can get Dick's just back from the College of Underwater Instructors. And they've been really blazing away at him to get across how they relate these things and the feelings about it. And maybe he could tell you what happens if they don't know how to use this scuba equipment.
Wait a minute. Is there a school that teaches this?
Yes, there are.
Where is
The
this?
training of instructors is going on in quite an extensive basis in the United States. There are several organizations, but this is a new one. This is the College of Underwater Instructors, and it's a very intense program. Dick's been at it for about 3 months, I think it was.
But this takes people who have been diving a long time and teaches them how to teach other people, you mean?
Yes.
It's a school of instructors. Where did you go to school at?
It's in San Mateo, California, about 15 miles south of San Francisco. The school was founded by Ed Raleigh, who was a very well-known person in sport diving in the United States. And he's been teaching people to dive now for about 25 years, and he's built up certain methods that, well, everybody's trying to get their hands on these methods. So I decided to open a college and spread the word around. And well, I was in the first course, and my sister Sharon was in the second course. But he plans on refining the thing and refining it until he gets down to it.
Wait, this is becoming a big thing then in the States.
Right.
Is this considered a hobby or a sport, or what is this? Scuba diving?
Yeah, it's both. It's both a hobby and a sport. If it's taught the right way, a person would become so interested that, I mean, he wants to spend all his time diving. Well, that's the way you want to teach a guy. You want to teach a guy to learn to enjoy the thing without being afraid. If you scare him off, you're defeating your purpose. You lose the guy.
Joe, where did you learn how to dive? Who taught you?
Well, I started with a group of guys who organized the Philippine Sports Divers Association. We have this association in town. And we probably have about anywhere from 100 to 150 members, about 100 active members. And it has spread out already throughout the country because there are affiliate organizations. I mean, from San Juan north. And I joined this club, and they taught me all ways to learn about the sport.
Do you think that you're safe in the water now after being taught?
Oh yes. In fact, I've been down with Dick several times.
Well, have you?
Yes, we were together.
Yeah.
And it's getting to a point where diving here in the Philippines is getting to be a profession also. I mean, some guys are going into it for the livelihood.
You know, the other night I saw a film which Mr. Tillman had brought along. And it was a film which really astounded me because it had been shot by, well, his group, some friends of his and himself. And it was well, explain it.
Well, I think probably I can explain it that by my own feelings.
Yeah.
The ultimate kind of a dive, in other words, for a mountain climber, if you were to say, well, what's the biggest thrill you can have? Well, I suppose it would be climbing Mount Everest, right? Yeah. Okay. Or for a surfer, it would be the biggest wave at the beach in Hawaii or something like that. Well, in diving, the thing for me now, I've gone through all the phases. I first started, I killed fish. I've gone into underwater photography, which is probably the most sophisticated and refined commitment you have when you get into diving. And this is really kind of haut gen. But I think it's the biggest thrill now for me is to dive, a deep dive off a ledge from the continental shelf, drops off into the deep water. And there you'll see all the giant things in the sea, and all the really rare and odd and unusual things, places where no man has ever been before. Now you can't make many of these dives because depth prevents you from doing this. The depth itself, as you go deeper, you have greater pressure placed upon your body and the air that's there. Your body becomes saturated with the gas that you're breathing. This creates a problem which leads into what we call decompression sickness. If you do not properly stage your return to the surface, you have the possibility of bubbles forming in your bloodstream. And the result of this are pains and sometimes paralysis and sometimes death. Now, this never need to happen when the person plans his dive and executes it properly. But the point is that you are going into a strange environment. You're going down when you go deep to a place where there are great pressures, and you must know what you're doing. Deep diving is for a very advanced diver, but it's